If the industry doesn't adopt it, then these bright people will go and find other industries where they will be appreciated.
This episode was recorded live at Digital Construction Week at the Excel in London, where I interviewed some of the best and brightest in the built environment for a revealing look at innovation and technology. Andy Steele initially served as a mentor to the founders of Buildots before transitioning to the role of Chief Strategy Officer. With a career spanning nearly 4 decades, Andy brings an extensive blend of expertise from both the construction and legal sectors. Prior to joining Buildots, he held the position of Group CEO for a top 40 UK-based construction group, involved in various segments such as development, construction, offsite manufacturing, and infrastructure. And he's also the chairman of the UK's largest construction trade federation, focusing on industry-wide improvements, and has more recently been involved in integrating construction technology to further advance the sector. In this episode, we take a look at on-site digital advancements and the impact correctly monitoring projects can have on the build, an organisation, and the industry itself.
Andy, welcome to the podcast.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Bit of a fan of the company you work for, which we'll dive into in a minute. Actually, let's do that now and start with a quote from your good self. Okay. Philly Bean, Moneyball 2011, meticulously analysed every aspect of the game using data and insights to identify undervalued players and create winning strategies. Can you dive a little bit deeper into this and explain how this relates to what Buildots does?
I mean, there's various parts to that statement. Let's start with the fundamentals. Great film, great story. You know, those are important bits.
Of course.
Because they capture you and they get you interested.
Yeah.
But underneath that, obviously, it's about strategy. And it was trying to understand talent, trying to understand how different players work better together, how hit rates, and it wasn't about how much you paid for somebody, it's about their ability. And they didn't have the money. As a team, they didn't have the money to go and buy all what on paper were the best players. So they employed basically an analyst who basically looked at the data. Okay. And he analysed success rates of when to play the player, what their hitting rate was, what their pitching rate was, and they analysed the data. Nobody believed it would work, and at the beginning it didn't work. But actually they went on to prove the model. And although that team themselves didn't actually win the baseball championship, the concept was then used by another team, and it's become the norm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just an incredible story. But the fundamentals, it's about data and strategy.
Yeah.
Bring the two together and you're on to success. So
yeah. I'd love to stay on the sporting theme.
So would I.
Yeah, all day. But unfortunately, or fortunately, we'll move on to more digital and construction tech related topics if you don't mind. So project management is the backbone of any construction site. It's there to maximize efficiency, quality, and sustainability across the whole build.
Yeah.
For an industry where the delivered product is dependent on timing, how important is it to utilize the latest tech and real-time data to keep projects moving and on time?
I think that the concept behind that is that what we're now able to do with technology has never been there.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't a criticism of the amazing work that our project teams have put together over the years, the iconic buildings they create. And I am a complete lover of what we do. You know, this is, to my terms, Fred Mills of the B1M will say differently, but to my terms, this is the second most important industry behind food. Okay, so to me, you know, what we do is incredible. Mm. But we're now in an age where we have technology. We have the capabilities to really understand what's going on our project. Mm-hmm. And it's almost, in my case, we're at DCW, but in my case, it's almost negligent if you don't, because it's there. And what it's doing is ideal. It's really making things possible which weren't possible. Decisions, making better decisions because you're more informed.
Yeah.
And that's in essence what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people insight, detailed insight, accurate insight into what's going on their project. And each project nowadays is so complex, but that it's beyond human capabilities to completely understand the interrelated aspects of what task goes when, the sequencing of this. I describe the industry as VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Those aspects of what we're dealing with day in, day out. And we all know in the industry that every building is effectively a prototype. It's unique. So we can't benchmark back to the identical building because we don't have one. So we got to grab this stuff while we can.
So any tech, and I've spoken about this to other people. It's almost and it's strange because the successful companies and the people that have gladly given their time for this podcast, the successful companies, the big companies, they always start with the customer first. And that seems to be a theme, and Buildots, I don't think is any different from that respect, and it can't be any different.
I think if you go back to what the founders did, is they recognized the industry. Obviously, it's a very large industry. There's lots of opportunity and potential. But what they did is they spent time coming as tech people, coming into the industry and trying to rationalize and understand the issues. And that's the success behind it, is that real fundamental, what is it that we're trying to solve? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And, partly why people like myself and the industry are part of the team, because we bring that expertise, we bring that knowledge of what the issues are that our customers are facing.
Yeah.
And because they're all facing similar issues.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. And we can't necessarily solve the ultimate problem, but we can certainly help improve. That's the case.
And like you were saying, every project is new. It's different. It's unique. But the same problems kind of occur time and time again within the industry, which leads me nicely on to the next topic. I personally think Buildots is that innovative of a solution. It's transforming the way construction projects are managed, driving efficiency and quality throughout the whole project life cycle. It has that power and capability, and we'll come on to the future of that in a little bit. But I'd like to hear your side of how Buildots has positively impacted some big projects.
Yeah, I think, the reason that I first was in a very luxurious position, I got introduced to the founders. I've really got to understand what the product was all about. And I see it as probably, to me, the most exciting industry disruptor. And why do I say that? I think because as I say, we're here at DCW. There's a lot of digital solutions here. There's a lot of digital solutions that basically replicate in a digital format the process that already existed. And what we're doing is, I think, disrupting it because of this insight, because of the data. So I think that's the bit that really stands out for me.
Yeah.
It's this ability to get under the surface of what's happening on the project, and really guide and help the teams understand what's going on. And we've had a number of really big wins with that. We've been working with IHP on the hospital project. So that's a joint venture between Sir Robert McAlpine and Vinci. Obviously, as I already said, hospital program is particularly complex.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a major task for those teams to understand exactly what's going on. But within those projects, we get to track what's going on. We can see when they're going, how to sequence to their program. So we're basically analyzing progress against the BIM model and against the program.
Yeah.
So we identify where trades aren't performing at the speed they should be. And through that, we then start to do our latest feature, which is delay forecast.
Okay.
So we're actually predicting when trades will start to complete.
Wow.
It's a predictive pace of production. And on this particular project, we identified quite early on that, trades were falling behind. And actually what they were doing is a classic trade thing. They were opening up new faces. So that instead of just working on zone A and B, they were working on zone C, D, E, F, because they like to push ahead. But what they're doing effectively quite often is they're doing the meat of the work or the easier stuff. And actually the time is in the last 20% or the first 80%. So we identified that. We also identified that there was a lot of returning visits because we logged that as well. So we log when the trade comes back into the same area. And what we see industry-wise is quite often that's 4 or 5 times trades are coming back into the same area because they've left loose ends. It can be because of design issues. It can be because of manufacturing issues. It can be because they've done this outer sequencing work. So there's various reasons why they would do it. But what we also note is that those who reduce that in half are 5 times less likely to be delayed. I mean, it's not rocket science, is it? If you're working efficiently, you're less likely to be delayed. But what we're doing is really putting our finger now on why. Yeah. One of my favorite pieces is a piece of work we've done recently where the contract program basically said that the mechanical contractor should be 55% complete. And where we were, we identify it as 47%. Now, this is pipe work. I challenge a human to be able to walk around and calculate whether it's 47 or 55% anyway. But we calculated 47%. What transpired with that was the fact that 8% turns out to be 2.5 weeks delayed.
Yeah.
But that's a moment in time. Actually, with our predicting tool, this delay forecasting tool now, we forecast that would have been a 6-month delay on that project.
Okay.
Now people are getting excited.
Exactly. Yeah. It's pretty cool then.
Yeah. As chief exec in my former life, a progress report crossing my desk was 47% compared to 55%. I might have looked at, but it wouldn't have really given me the true facts. But actually, this one, then really gets exciting.
Yeah.
And it's that type of detail. But when you then start drilling into the detail, what you discover is, again, as I said, people like to push ahead and work in wrong sequence. So you discover they're not just working on level 2 and 3, they're working on level 2, 3, and 4. And, what that contractor had to do in the end is to stop them working on level 4 and concentrate the resources on the critical path in level 2 and 3, because they were so wildly behind where they should be. And it's that part which is making the big success. We're not saying that the contractors themselves wouldn't have identified this problem, because at some stage, either the problem would have been so big it came to them, so they would have been aware because it's magnified to that extent. What we're saying is that we're very much an early indicator, and that's we can give you this early warning device which says there is a risk here. Yeah. Don't let the fires get too big. And the problem of our industry, as we know, is that the consequences of buildings being late can be significant, very significant. And it's just, if you know, you can do something about it.
Before this tech, it would have been spotted anecdotally and noted. But like you rightly said at the very end there, we get to do it a lot quicker, more efficiently, and more accurately with the data. So it would have been spotted anyway, but that would have been kind of lost a little bit in how much that delay actually is, and how much it costs. Whereas now we have the data to almost see it before it actually happens, which is just quite astounding.
Yeah. I mean, we work on a lot of lean principles, lean construction principles. Okay. And there's one called PPC, planned percentage complete. And it's a simple technique where you sit with your subcontractor or your trade contractor weekly, normal process on most major projects or most projects, and the contractor will tell you what they plan to do the following week. Not rocket science, quite standard.
Yep.
You won't believe the percentage that is actually obtained of that work that they are telling you that they're going to do.
Yeah.
And the norm is, any ideas? 46%. 46%.
Yeah.
Now, Lean Institute will say you don't want to get to 100%. That's the question. But what you've got to be able to do is to be able to predict what's going on to allow following trades to at least gear up, because without that predictability, how on earth can following trades work? How can they go in, not knowing whether the wall's going to be there for them to time? And if we have this complete unpredictability within the industry, and it's so complex, and we're all managing all these scarce resources, because resources are scarce. We don't have enough skilled labor in the country, let alone the world. If we're using this labor so inefficiently, then it's a big problem.
Oh, massive, yeah. Massive on all levels. Just want to get into a little bit more detail on that, because there's a quote from yourself again. We like quotes from you. Right, so Buildots is all about sharing real-time data within a collaborative process. But as we all know, success only comes from utilizing the right data. I think that's key. You once stated that the organizations need to shift the focus from solely tracking outcomes like schedule and budget progress to closely monitoring the underlying factors that contribute to project success. What should we be monitoring to drive such success?
Thank you. Great question. Look, there's as I say, making the marker on your program, which is showing whether you're ahead of program, and so sometimes trades are ahead. Let's give credit where credit is due. That sometimes happens. Doing your monthly cost value reconciliations is vital. But if you not understand truly what the risk of that completion date is going to be, both of those are irrelevant. And they're lagging indicators, really. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to a point of leading indicators. And what we then do is so we don't present our customers just with data. Mm-hmm. We translate that. We have a full customer success team who take the data, basically work through it and provide it in an information form so that you can sit down with the project team and actually say, look, the data's saying we've got a problem here. We think this is significant enough for you to take notice of it. And, we started with a report we did back in 2023, which is about inefficiencies. And we started with a simple one, which was how much of the building, which is available for you to do the next stage of operation, how much of that building are you actually using? And again, it was below 50%. So we're only working in less than 50% of the available building. Now, that could be because of resources. It could be because of logistics. It could be because of manufacturing. It could be design. It could be for a load of reasons. But by posing that question, we start to ask why.
Yeah.
And it could be, simplistically, Towerbot, that your hoisting facilities are insufficient. And the beauty of this sort of data is that we can start to feed it back into pre-construction. Mm-hmm. So we've got that. As I said, we've got PPC. We've got returning work visits, how often we come back into an area. We've got the number of loose ends that you're leaving in any place where you're just not completing the work. And then we've got this predictive pace. And one of the other examples we have, again, is, we've got a trade that's recorded as 64% on program, and another trade is at 62% behind program. And it's all to do with that. One of those trades had started too early, and that actual output per week is nowhere near the volume that it needs to be.
Yeah. All right.
But at a snapshot in time, it looks like they're on program.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that sort of data where you go, you think it's this trade that's going to cause you a problem, but it's not. It's actually it's the electrical contractor or the sprinkler or the insulation person. You know, it's just that, you know, schedule that program position at a point in time is just pretty much meaningless, really. You know, and
it seems that you can almost see the unseen in a way. You utilize the data, and you know, which is no surprise. You do the right calculations, you get a certain outcome, a certain solution. Whereas if you did do that calculation, it would probably be a different outcome or a different.
And lean principles have tried to do this over the last 10, 15 years. But the difficulty with theirs is that their base point is subjective data.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you've got one trade basically saying I'm being delayed by that trade and you can't really unpick it, then it's very difficult to actually move forward in this collaborative world that we've just been talking about. You know, that collaboration can really come into play because nobody's got anywhere to hide. It's a transparent world. And yes, contracts get in the way and the formal contract and contractual positioning and everything else. But if you come back to what we're trying to do here, we're trying to build a program. And it's a simple thing. It's like, back to sporting analogy, I suppose. You know, we don't need a team of superstars. We need a team of supply chain people who work together, who work with the information, who work with the project team. And it's the blend of that team which is going to drive the success of that project. And that's the bit that excites the living daylights out of me. Why I'm here, why I'm at my age still coming to work and involved with the technology. Why I got involved with technology is because I think that's so transformative from where we've been.
Yeah.
That, you know, as I say, you got to love the industry for what we do, but my goodness, you want to knock a few heads together as well, you know?
Okay, so what I'm finding is that it's much about the people as it is the information, but I just want to pull it back to kind of the data, and we're not short of a number or two now. The more data we have, the better decisions we can make. That's kind of obvious, but it's getting the right data both on and off site to make decisions. I feel back in 2018, a white paper produced by consultancy firm F&I revealed that approximately 96% of construction and engineering data went unused, with 90% being unstructured. So there's basically a lot of numbers flying around.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've tightened that up a bit now. And there's lots of people here in this room that help to do that. But I'd imagine that these percentages are still too wasteful regardless. What is your advice and best practice on collecting, analyzing, and taking action from large data sets?
Yeah, we talk to a lot of customers, and a lot of customers will say, we have loads of data, Andy. As an industry, we don't employ a lot of data analysts.
Yeah.
We're bringing them into the industry slowly. Companies like Sir Robert McAlpine have bitten the bullet. They've retrained some of their own staff. They're bringing people in. I'm sure that, you know, there's a number of others, Vinci, other companies who are doing that. It's vital. You've got to understand. We have the wonders of BI cubes now to pull this data. The sophisticated digital companies work on an interoperability point. So you're pulling data from multi-sources. So we're not all sitting there going, use our system, ignore other systems, because, you know, you need to be able to pull that together. But I think what we've done as an organization is we're not a SaaS seller as typical. We recognize that it's really hard for these companies to change what they're doing, how they're doing, a bit of the culture. Sites are very busy places, lots going on. So picking up a new bit of software isn't necessarily the solution. So what we do is we put it in a format where we literally place it in front of them in a format that they really understand. And we've had to go there. I must admit, I didn't expect that we would have to go there. I thought just providing the data would be enough. But what I've really noticed, and we've noticed, is we spend a lot of time looking at the data and putting the narrative around what that data is saying ourselves. And then sense checking it with our customers, not drowning their time in getting them to sense check it. And I think that's where dividends for us, because it's, but it, by the way, back to Moneyball, they had data, they analyzed it, they used it, but they had somebody who was analyzing it and presenting it in a way that really made sense.
Yeah.
And it's that clever bit of taking it from data into information.
Yeah, so
and
the data.
Yeah, and it's our whole we have created a bit of a category, let's call it, or a positioning. We call it performance-driven construction management. We've gone there because, again, it's a way of articulating a new culture, a new mindset. I believe in, not just the technology, but the people and the process need to combine together, because unless you bring all those three together, it doesn't work. So we've created performance-driven construction management, brings all of this stuff together, includes in the title. It's about driving performance on the projects. That's, it brings all the metrics that we've been talking about together and allows us to articulate what this is all about.
Do you think that's possible for smaller organisations as well that might not have the money and the resources to invest in large tech?
I think the more this technology is adopted, the wider the cascade will become, the more normal it will become. It takes pioneers. We all know about innovators. You need to get hold of those early adopters and innovators, those people who believe in what you believe in. But this technology market here is full of phenomenally clever people, phenomenally great ideas. But if the industry doesn't adopt it, then these bright people will go and find other industries where they will be appreciated. And we are a very traditional industry, a bit difficult to move and to reposition the tanker as in where it is, tied up an awful lot with government procurement and other things. We really know we have the construction playbook in the UK. That construction playbook talks about digital technology, but it's really incumbent on those government departments to embrace it and actually specify not the company, but the output that they want from the use of digital technology. What are they looking for? What can benefit them? And I think if we can start getting that groundswell, then we stand a really big chance. And the beauty of what we're doing is that, the government's mandated BIM years ago, but it's still not fully implemented.
Really?
Our system requires BIM. So again, it's something else which drives that use. And there's so many, the Golden Thread, the Building Safety Act, there's so many new things coming into the industry now, vital things, that it's all the direction of travel and the groundswell is all building.
Yeah.
And I do believe, we are on this cusp of on a bigger, quicker transformation than has happened in the last 5-10 years. It's happening, but it's not quick enough.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with you. So, if listeners haven't guessed, I'm quite a fan of Buildots. So this is
I'm glad about that.
a real joy for me. And I've kept a keen eye over the past years on them and what they're doing. So looking towards the future, what advancements can we expect from your technology, and how do you see the rest of the industry shaping up?
Both great questions. I'll try and pick them off separately. For us, we are very much AI is at the base of what we do. And it's quite a differentiator in our market, the way that we use that AI. I think in reality, we're still at the very early exciting stages of what this technology can do, and the ability to feed back into pre-construction, ability for the whole industry to embrace understanding of what's happening on those projects, why it's happening, how design is affecting it, bringing together standardization of components, standardization of design, where it's best to offsite manufacture, where it's not. Because we will have, for I think a long time to come, we will have a position where offsite, and you know my background, it includes offsite construction. Offsite is a really important way of developing and moving forward, but we still have an awful lot of on-site operations. And I think that's where I think the excitement would be. For us, in the very short term, it would be still very focused around what's going on that project.
Yeah.
It's, to me, there's an awful lot of technology which supports the fringes of what happens, but the core of what we do is the building. And our software is very much, and our customer success support is very much focused on helping businesses improve that part. And becoming embedded within their organizations is the key for us. So there's that part. You're going to have to remind me the second question.
The second question was, the future of the industry and tech in general.
I think the future of the industry is, wow. I think, look.
I'm not going to hold you to it.
No, the future of the industry. I mean, I've been in and around the industry my mother was in the industry, so since I was a very young child in that respect. So, over 40 years in and around it.
I was going to say around about 20, but
no, thank you. And it hasn't moved a huge amount, probably till the last 10. It's been moving, but not. Health and safety has.
Yeah.
And again, I think we need to learn from health and safety. We need to learn that when we want to change something, and we get definitely the customers focus, because they drive the industry. Right. So if customers engage in technology, they will drive it. I think we have resource issues. That's going to continue. There's a huge pull on talent from all industries. We need the resource. We need to be able to bring in, your resources coming into this sector part of it. We need to make life easier for a lot of people. There's a huge amount of stress and strain in the industry. There's a huge amount of expectations. We need to be able to simplify the industry down by using standardization, off-site technology, making us more efficient across the piece so that we can continue to build these even more complicated, smarter buildings. And really, I always used to describe the building is not as a building, it's an ecosystem.
Okay.
It's part of our living life.
Sure, yeah.
And there's nothing, every part of a human's life is interfaced with what we build.
Well, there's been studies that show that buildings do impact our health, our mental health, our well-being, and everything.
Yeah. So as part of that, we are building more sophisticated, more complicated, smarter buildings, which embrace technology as well. So I think, the future is really exciting. I mean, people say, would you want your children to come into the industry? Why not have chosen other industries? Unfortunately, but today, now, I would be advocating that they did, because I think it's a really exciting, fun place to be. And we're at this amazing cusp of the next 10 years, I think it can be a real wow, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, finally, we're here at Digital Construction Week. Give us your thoughts.
It's growing. It's continued to grow. Look at it. It's like the noise, the energy, the buzz.
Yeah, I think there is as well this year.
Yeah, every speaker slot, from mental health conversations to technology conversations to, again, people process technology conversations to sustainability to what we're doing, to data management, you name it. The brain power that's going in behind the scenes to create this possibility is enormous. It's such a great showcase of what is available to people. I think my one plea, I suppose, is I'd love to see more operational staff come.
Okay. Yeah.
I think leaving it to your innovation teams, your digital teams is okay. It's great. But I actually think, understanding what is out there, and I look at myself in that regard. When I was running a construction business, I didn't know what was available. I had a digital team, and they would put stuff forward, and I would look at that as a business case, but I had no real understanding of what was available. And I think the last 3 years have really opened my eyes to this all sort of sub market that's going on, which is so key to us.
Yeah. It also gets everybody on board as well. The more people that come from your organization, the more they're keen to invest their time and their career into your own organization and into the tech as well, which also helps in the future.
Yeah. So I think it's an exciting time. As I say, I'm sure you can have the sound effects of what's going on here. There's a real buzz today.
Yeah. Fantastic. Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Delighted to speak to you.
Pleasure's all mine. So great to meet you.